Welcome to the Kick-Ass Dad Podcast. Welcome to the Kick-Ass Dad Talks Tactics Podcast. Join the Kick-Ass Dad, myself, as I delve into the world of martial arts tactics, discussing everything from martial arts, and may even get into navigating life as a father, insights on single parenting. But in general, it's going to be a martial arts podcast. I'm going to start out with the Talks Tactics podcast, where I just take a weekly topic on martial arts and discuss it. And then I kind of plan to expand into doing interviews. May start covering other news and stuff as well eventually. But yeah, I was going to start off with the Talks Tactics. So just a weekly topic on various things within martial arts. So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast here on YouTube and everywhere else that you listen to podcasts, because it will be available on Amazon, Google, Apple, Spotify, and a host of other places where podcasts are available. So make sure that you like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and yeah, let's grow this and tune in for this dynamic blend of wisdom, humor, with a fresh perspective on being a kick-ass dad in today's world, and how we can apply martial arts in our personal lives and learn various tactical and self-defense related topics. You can also follow the blog at thekickassdad.space. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. So yeah, the kickassdad.space. And that is where the blog, you can access the blog, where I will be pulling the topics that I am sharing from. And basically, I'll be discussing one of the blog posts and maybe some relevant information. So that is that. And so today's topic is going to be David versus Goliath, how to fight a larger opponent. And before we get into it, I want to go ahead and look at some videos of some smaller people fighting bigger people and coming out on top. Now, there are some martial arts that are geared towards small people having an advantage over big people. For example, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, they say Elio Gracie intentionally developed Gracie Jiu-Jitsu so a small person can have advantage over a larger opponent. Wing Chun was developed by a woman, so it's another martial art that was geared towards a smaller person combating a larger person. I also find Judo to be very helpful in grabbing a larger person and throwing them and hitting them hard with the earth. And I even find elements of Silat helpful in, moving people around, positioning them and dropping them on the floor pretty hard. Now, of course, a solid foundation in any boxing, kickboxing, or grappling art is pretty much necessary to survive a street fight. And of course, asymmetric tactics, attacking vulnerable targets like eyes, throats, groin, shin. And one I found a lot of use in dealing with larger opponents is hitting them in the solar plexus nice and hard. That you'll find that will work a lot. Of course, throat, groin, eyes. When you're shooting your fingers into eyes, you got to be kind of careful. If they have a longer reach, you might get the eye, but that clubber lane, that big arm, might still come around and clock you in the head. And you might have got their eye, but they might have knocked you out. So that's where distance management becomes important. And then when you're managing the distance, then use your longest weapon to the nearest target. So side kick the knee, maintain that range. Those are some of the tactics that we're going to talk about here. But I want to go ahead and take a look at a couple videos. One's going to be a street fight where a little guy gets advantage on a bigger guy, and another is an MMA fight. So I just want to show that there are illustrations out there of smaller guys dealing with larger opponents and coming out on top. And I've had more than my share of experience with this, so I can say that there are definitely some tactics that we'll talk about that are useful. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start. First is this street fight where a smaller guy ends up knocking out the larger guy. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right. So the first video we're going to watch here, simply how a little guy KOs a bigger guy. And let's go full screen. And let's go ahead and watch this. See the bigger guy And watch how he manages distance. He don't be near those hands, and he hits that chin, and boom, he's down. Distance management, moving your head out the way, and he hits him right on the chin. It's kind of frozen here. Are we gonna get to see that chin shot? Let's go back. All right, here we go. Boom. And whap right on the chin. Now that might have been a lucky shot. I don't know if this is a legit fight, but I know that if you're avoiding those big hands, see, that's one of the things that you have is that a bigger person, they have reach and they have strength, but a smaller person tends to have speed. They tend to be faster. So you might get to the hit quicker, but they might hit you hard afterwards. So you got to be careful, manage the distance, manage the damage, right? So let's go ahead and look at the next fight here. Let's get into it. All right. So here's the next fight that we're going to look at. This is a smaller guy, much bigger guy. And let's go ahead and just take a look at this fight real quick. Right. They square off. And this guy is huge, man. He is just manhandling him. I mean, the guy's using his size, his weight. I mean, he is mauling this guy. I mean, it's brutal. They got a nice little leg sweep. He throws him out, shoves the ref. He's not happy because this little guy is, taking him to task. He ends up winning with a knockout, TKO, I guess. But here we go. So, I mean, that's the thing. I just wanted to illustrate that there are instances of. All right, so from the two videos we see, one, the guy's using distance management, moving in and out, and he lands that lucky shot to the chin, which was a good one. And the second one, the guy is getting mauled. He gets a sweep in here and there. He's taking it to task. You tell the big guy is getting mad because he's having a hard time with the little guy. So I mean, you can see they're just illustrating. There's a couple points. There's a whole bunch of other ones that you can find on there. Just look up little guy knocking out big guy or small MMA fighter taking on a large MMA fighter, and you'll find tons of them. So let's talk about some of the tactics that you use to deal with a larger opponent. As I kind of mentioned before, distance management is important. Don't let them get close to you with those long arms that reach. If you can sector, move to the outside, get a hard throw, hit them with the earth, wake them up with a little, a cement smack, just hit them hard with the cement. Again, use your longest weapon to the nearest target. So you're going to use your, G-Tech or your side kick to the knee, finger jab to the eye, maintain the distance. Be careful if you're shooting your hand to the eye. If they got longer reach, you're going to want to make sure you slip in, bobbing and weaving, keep your head out the way so you're not getting hit. You might get the eyes while that big old hand is coming. So make sure that you're managing, again, the distance, manage the damage. So when I've dealt with larger guys, I want more for the side kick to the knees, sector to the outside, and then try to slip in and get a throw and hit them with the earth. When you have a bigger person, you don't want to go toe to toe, right? You might be quicker. You might be able to slip, bob, and weave and move and hit them a bunch, but all they need is one good hard hit to your head and you're unconscious, So I would never go toe to toe with a bigger person. Growing up in the inner city, I had to deal with gang violence, working as security as a bouncer, at times having to deal with, large drunk guys. I'm like 5'11" myself. So I'm not the shortest guy on the block, but occasionally you'll deal with somebody that's like 6'3", 6'6". They're drunk, they're belligerent. They think because they're big, they can boss people around, do what they want to do, and then you've got to take care of it, especially if your job is to calm them down and they're acting unruly in like a club or space like that. So some other tactics that you can use, of course, with the distance management, interceptions, maintaining your distance and range, your elbow destructions off their hits, knee destructions off their kicks, make them hurt, forward pressure, and then terminate the fight with headbutt, knees, and elbows, right? You've got to deal with the immediate danger, violently counterattack, and then evacuate the danger zone, right? I mean, the best way to avoid a fight is no be there. So I don't want to be there. I don't want, if you can avoid the fight, talk your way out. Use your verbal de-escalation skills. If you're working security, law enforcement, as a bouncer, your goal, your job is to keep the party flowing and, take care of people that, if they need to go, they need to go. Your job isn't there to, pick fights and that kind of thing. It's to de-escalate, and keep the party moving, not ruin people's nights or end up having to deal with personal liability when they want to come back and sue you. You got to be careful with that nowadays. So, um, hopefully the place you're working is going to cover you for any liabilities like that. But at the end of the day, still, personal liability lawsuits is something that you have to think about. So, and then after the altercation, if something happens, always do a field check for injuries, report to proper authorities if you need to, and then deal with stress with rest, take care of yourself, right? And after an incident, make sure that you plead the fifth. Don't tell the cops anything until you get a lawyer. Just be careful to avoid self-incrimination and don't use martial art terminology when, if you have an altercation where you defend yourself. And I know I just kind of got into tactics a little bit, but let me kind of back up and talk about my experience with dealing with larger opponents. So I just gave you some tactics and stuff, and let me talk about why I come to like this is how you're going to have to use your skills and tactics to one, de-escalate. Two, if it escalates outside of your control, then what are the tools that you have, right? So I kind of preloaded it, gave you some stuff. Now let me talk to you about why I kind of do things that way. And so we're going to go through some of my experiences here. um as Bruce Lee's credited was saying, someone who's had a year of boxing and grappling skills will do far much better than a traditional martial artist. At least, coming from the 60s, 70s at the time. Nowadays, with MMA, you got boxing and grappling, kickboxing and grappling. So, there's a higher level of general competency from one, I mean, people who train MMA, and two, from people watching it, trying to emulate it. So, the fight game is evolved. So as such, you evolve or die. You got to evolve, right? You got to stay constant fluid flowing like a river, right? Any combat sport's going to give you workable skills that are pressure tested. It's important to pressure test your skills so that whatever you do is functional. We have self-preservation, which is fighting to save your life, and self-perfection. So then there's skills you do to develop and become a better fighter. It's just like when, like the Dallas Cowboys or the 49ers, that, they're when they're doing their preseason prep, they may do things other than, football. They may have, the football players do other specialized skills that teach them balance, mobility, and give them tactics they can use in a fight. I know stories of like when Dan Inosanto was working with I think Dan Inosanto, Tim Tackett, I think Larry Hartzell might have worked with them as well. But, working with the Cowboys and the 49ers, and they're doing, Sinawali and Hubud and Lopsau, and, they're learning sensitivity drills and the coordination, and I remember stories of coaches saying that those things really expedited the skills and made them better as football, in the football game. So just the same in the martial arts, there's different specialized skills you can learn from different martial arts that's going to make you better. So, it's not the martial art, it's the practitioner. Any practitioner can make any martial art work. I mean, there's arts that are geared towards fighting and they're going to give you more skills, but a skilled street fighter can make karate work. I remember one of the first times I made Taekwondo work in a street fight. Uh, Kid was picking on my sister. I went to shut it down. And me and him get an altercation, and I was doing Taekwondo, and I felt the inclination to do a round kick to his head, but I covered it with a jab cross from boxing, and then I round kicked him in the head, and boom, he went down. Now in Taekwondo they didn't teach me to do the boxing jab cross round kick, but I had picked up some boxing skills, so I used my hands to cover my foot. I didn't just stick my foot in his head, but I went bang, bang, and that foot was up, boom. And I hit his head and boom, he was, sure enough, it hit him hard. So there are ways, because I was before, I had trained, really heavily in Jeet Kune Do and Muay Thai and, other more combat focused arts. But I made Taekwondo work before really getting into that stuff later on, right? So you can make any martial art work. It's not the art, it's the practitioner, right? So, all that to say, let me kind of go back and talk about my experiences dealing with larger opponents, right? So, I would say twice in elementary school. I got in altercations with bullies that were taller, larger than me. Um, and I sent them packing, sent them away crying and bleeding. I was the smaller guy, right? I'm talking about kids who are bigger and stronger, by a good amount. It wasn't even. Um, Definitely, the first incident that I remember was, I don't know. I mean, I think first, second grade, maybe. I don't know. But there was this bully on my block, and he was picking on me and my friend Peter. And he lived on, the house kind of in the corner. We're down in Oceanside, um, kind of down by Buccaneer Park in Oceanside, somewhere over in that area, kind of. Anyways, he's shoving us, harassing us, taking our stuff. So, anyways, like I have this idea, like my uncle's in town, and he's like he gives you these hugs, he'll bear hug you and crush you. I go inside, I'm like, hey dad, can you have an uncle go out and crush this dude? And he's like, no. I mean, like that was the thing to do, ask an adult to crush a kid, but I was a kid at the time. I wasn't, I wasn't aware of that's not gonna happen. But it was kind of funny. So, anyways, I'm inside and I'm like, man, well, what am I gonna do? So he's like, nah, go back and face him. If he pushes you, push him back. If he pushes you again, hit him in the nose. And he basically kind of pushes me out the door. He's like, all right, go. Like he's not like hanging in the house. No, no, go face your demon, go fight it. Go deal with it. So I go back outside. Me and my friend Peter are playing. And this dude, sure enough, he shoves me. I shove him back. He shoves me. Bam! I hit him right in the nose. His nose, just blood just starts coming out. And it was the funniest thing because you see this big dude and he's pondering what to do. He's walking away, he's holding his face, his blood going down. And anyways, he kept doing this thing where he'd walk away, he turns around, looks at me like he just wants to come back and do something. But he just kept he kept, it was like this whole back and forth thing. And eventually he just walked off, went home. He never messed with me again. Right? Not like he never bullied me, messed with me, nothing. And so I learned a lesson: hit hard, hit first, make them bleed, make them cry. No matter if they're tall. I mean, I had to swing up when I had to swing up. He was not in my. I was swinging up when I swung. I mean, he was at least 3 grades ahead of me. I'd say. He was close to a like adult or teenage size. He was a pretty good sized person. So he wasn't, like a small little, pushover. But anyway, so my dad, when I get back, he's like, don't ever start a fight. But if somebody else starts a fight, you finish a fight. You won't get in trouble with me if you finish the fight, but if you start the fight, you'll get in trouble. And so that kind of was like, all right, I gotta be smart. If I'm gonna fight, I gotta fight to win, but I also gotta try to avoid fights. School was kind of another issue, like kindergarten. Growing up in the inner city, it feels like fights are obligatory. Is to just happen. You don't have a choice much. It's just kind of somebody's angry. You're in somebody's territory. I mean, going in the wrong neighborhood. That happened a few times. But I remember, 2 kids in kindergarten picked fights with me. One of them, I tried to run away and climb a fence just to get away from the fight. And I was up for like student of the month, but because I ran away and climbed the fence to get away from a kid trying to fight me, I lost that. The only time in elementary school that I almost got like, I mean, like literally, teacher had done everything. It was like, oh, you're gonna student of the month, and then bang, I climbed the fence to get away from a fight. So I started to learn like, what's the point in like running from a fight if you're gonna get in trouble? So might as well just stick around and fight. Um, but yeah, like I said, fighting kind of became inevitable. Sometimes I didn't want to fight. So I would just let it go. I'd take a hit or two and I just be like, chill out. This little dude was trying to pick a fight with me, which is kind of other direction. I just put my hand on his head and held him there. I was like, dude, chill out. You can get knocked out if you don't stop. He's like, I'm gonna kick your ass after school. I was like, bro, really? It's not gonna happen. But good luck. So anyways, that was kind of like growing up was a little rough like that. At some point I picked up the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and eventually like Bruce Lee's fighting method, the 4 books. And I got myself some training equipment and gear in my backyard. I had like a speed bag, a heavy bag. And then I picked up the VHS of Bruce Lee's fighting method with Ted Wong and Richard Bustillo. And so I started practicing the stuff. And teaching myself how to punch and kick and bob and weave and all those kind of basic things. And then in high school I got into wrestling. Wasn't too long after wrestling that I started getting into Taekwondo and Eskrima a little bit. And then I was vice president of the martial arts club at my school. And a friend of mine was teaching me Aikido and stuff, and I teach like Taekwondo and whatnot. But at this point, so by high school, I started doing martial arts and I started feeling confident. Before I felt like if somebody talked smack, I had to like respond with aggression. But now that I started learning martial arts, I was like, I don't have to fight, the art of fighting without fighting. Um, and so, well, let me go back before I get into high school again. Let me go back. In fourth grade, okay, so yeah, this was my other incident in elementary school. I was in fourth grade. There was sixth grade. He was a big dude. And he was picking on this other kid, one of the kids I got in a fight with in kindergarten, one of the kids that picked a fight with me. And I find out that guy was getting bullied by his bigger brother, and so like he was just letting out his aggression and whatnot. But I really didn't have a beef with the guy, but if you wanted to start something, I'd finish it. That's what my dad taught me, right? So, anyways, this dude Jeremy, uh, he was getting picked on by this guy. The guy was, shoving him, hitting him and whatnot. And so I walk up and I'm like, I don't know, this inner superhero in me just rose up. And I'm like, why am I defending a guy who picked a fight with me before? Just the principle of some big dude beating up on a little dude just riled me up. So I walked up and I was like, hey, pick on somebody your own size. And he's bigger than me. So it's not like I had size on my side. He was a guy I had to reach up when it came time to start swinging. But again, true to form, and the same thing my dad said, if he pushes you, push him back. He pushes you again, just hit him in the nose. Right. So I mean, that's as simple. It's not too complicated. But so yeah, he shoves me. I shove him back. He shoves me again. Ha! Right in the nose, bleeding. You can see the same thing going through this kid's mind. He wants to kick my ass, but his face is bleeding. You're leaking blood. It's an issue, right? And of course, this is elementary school, so this isn't like a mugger or robber or something. This is a bully. And here's the thing: I find that bigger guys aren't used to certain levels of pain. They're not used to little guys bringing the pain. And so when you give them pain, you make their face bleed, they're in shock. There's a certain amount where, bigger guys can take hits from smaller people, but there are certain things that they just don't know what to do with. Um, we'll get into another one that I found that worked. But, in elementary school, hitting them in the nose and making the nose bleed worked, right? That was what worked at that point. Um, but yeah, so in high school, I start getting into martial arts and stuff. And I'm like, I no longer feel the need. I now know how to fight. I don't feel like if somebody's talking smack, I have to like become more aggressive. And, I tried to talk my way out of it. I remember one fight with some kid, we were in the hallway and he's talking smack and, getting bunk. I forget what he was all upset about, but he went to throw a punch and I just guided him into the wall behind me and was like, bro, dude, you need to chill out, dude. It's not going to go well for you. And he calmed down. Um, Now there was another guy because I told you I was on the wrestling team, right? So there was a guy, I was like 155 at the time. This dude was like 185, so he had a few pounds on me. He's a little bigger. He had been doing wrestling for like a year and a half. I had just started. And he kind of had a grudge because he tried to pick a fight with me when before he had put on some weight, and that one didn't go well for him. Um, but anyways, he had put on weight. He's bigger than me. He'd been doing wrestling for a year and a half. But this guy, really he had turned into one of those bully types. So now he's big. He's picking on people. He's messing with people. And anyways, he starts talking trash to me because apparently he wants to turn the tables. He started the fight the first time, and I just told him to chill out, and it didn't go well. But now he's bigger than me, and I hadn't been hitting the gym every day like he was, and maybe I gave the guy focus. Maybe he was coming back. It was payback. I don't know. But anyways, he's talking smack. He goes to throw a punch, and I just take him and guide his face into the fence behind me, double, block, just throw him into the thing. And then he keeps talking smack. Oh, martial arts, blah, blah, blah. And I go and position myself in front of the stairs because he's still coming. And then he goes to kick me, and I just guide him down the stairs and, tumbling down the stair and stuff. And you think that was enough. It wasn't. But it was kind of funny, right? So then it's the beginning of PE. Then PE goes, and we had to climb like this rope. I'm climbing this rope, and somebody's like, "Well, for a ninja boy, you don't climb ropes too well." And I'm like, "Ninja boy, what you talking about?" Anyway, so whatever. So apparently, I got the name Ninja Boy from throwing people into fences and walls. But mind you, it wasn't enough for this dude. He wasn't done, right? So, anyways, into PE, I'm leaning on the wall. This is at El Camino High School down by the PE area. And the walls are like rough, not good for your hands or your face or anything like that. So avoid them. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and like there's a group of guys around me talking to me who are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you just threw him in the fence and threw him down the stairs." Because I mean he had been bullying people. And so they're like, "Yo, that's cool. You kicked his ass." Like turn the tides, whatnot. So, anyways, all I know is I'm sitting there like there's like 3, 4 guys, and I look over the shoulder and I see dude coming, and all I see right over the guy's shoulders, I see this fist coming like this at me. I slip to the side and just let his hand crash into the wall behind me, and I see a little blood on his knuckle as he pulls out. But as he's coming over my shoulder, I'm looking over his shoulder, and the PE coach is right there, and I'm just doing this, slipping the punch, watching the PE coach as he busts his hand, and then the PE coach grabs him by his shirt and goes, "All right, come with me." And then numbnuts, as he's walking off, goes, "Man, why'd you move? I was just gonna hit you, man." Bro, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just gonna take it to the face. What are you thinking? I mean, the first two didn't work. Three is gonna work for you now? I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting it's gonna work. It did not work. Anyways, that was the funniest response. I was like, "Bro, really? Nah, my face is too pretty to stay here. You can bust your hand. Don't be stupid." Anyways, that was so dumb. I was like, "Really, dude, please." Anyways, so let's see. So there were two other instances in high school where I dealt with really big guys. I mean, like linebackers. One was a really big Samoan dude. He was big. He was built. He was huge. Anyways, he was like this stupid reputation was going around, Ninja Boy. Like I was not a fan because people are like, "Oh, you bad. What you gonna do? I'm gonna hurt you. You can't stop me." Well, dude in PE kept talking that, and I hit him in the solar plexus. And he kept talking, and then he's trying to throw punches. I hit him in the temple, and he's like, holding his head and stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, not so cool, bro." Like it kind of sucked because people were wanted to challenge me and shit. I was not like going, "Hey, let's have a fight." It wasn't my goal. But like, "Oh, you're Ninja Boy. I heard you kick so and so's." Okay, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this Samoan dude, I forget his name right now, but he was talking smack. "Oh, you can't hurt me. Oh, da 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 da." And okay, I was like, "All right, let's go." And I was just looking straight at his solar plexus. Like all I was thinking is I am just gonna hit you in the solar plexus as hard as I can. And so he starts to throw hands, and boom, I hit him in the solar plexus, and I hear and he's like, "Stop, stop, stop." Like he didn't know what to do. I was like, "Okay, you wanted to see what I could do. You pick a fight, you throw hands." And I'm in the middle of defending myself because he's starting to throw hands, and I hit him hard in the solar plexus. And you want me to stop? Like I'm like, "Bro, really?" So, anyways, we never had an altercation again. After that, he always wanted to be my friend and whatnot, which was kind of funny. Um, and then the other altercation that I had was on a bus, and I was joking around with a friend of mine. Like I was, friends, you kind of talk smack to each other. I was kind of talking smack. Well, I don't know if he knew we were friends, but he took offense to it. He started talking shit. Now this guy was a linebacker on our football team. His nickname was Refrigerator. Dude was huge, 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 huge. I did not want him to get close to me. All I did was line up, go sideways, and for me at that point, I didn't want him to like get a hold of me, hit me. It was side kicks to the knees was what how I kept my distance and was able to walk away from that situation. Um, so I would say the collective wisdom I got from, my schooling upbringing as a child is hit them hard, make them bleed, hit them in the solar plexus, side kick in the knee, you know, maintain distance, right? Because the side kicks to the knees work, hit them in the solar plexus work, hit them in the nose, make the nosebleed worked, you know. Um, I found that those really helped me a lot. They kept me. I was the one who walked away without getting punched, hit, and hurt, which I'm lucky I didn't get my face smashed in, right? Um, but so those are tactics that I found that work. As I grew up and I get into martial arts more, started getting more into the Jeet Kune Do, the kickboxing, the grappling and stuff. Uh, I find in addition to those things that getting them to a position where you can throw them hard and hit them with the earth. So maintain your distance, strike the knee, strike the groin, strike the throat, strike the solar plexus, fingers to the eyes. Your asymmetric tactics, your distance management are like hugely important things to do. But if you can sector and get a side clinch and hit him with the earth, or you can get in and, whether it's a Sotogari or a Ogoshi or something, you get in and you throw them hard into the earth. They did a study of street fights, and it was like 96% of fights where the person threw somebody to the ground uh, led to like an advantage of the person doing the throwing. So if you can get them and throw them and then get to ground and pound, um, you're going to be really successful when it comes to a street fight. MMA, it's a little different. You're going to have to play more of a game, but in the street, hard throws and ground and pound is, your bread and butter. Um, if you're in law enforcement or security, or you're dealing with a drunk uncle in, submissions, but, um, and submissions can play a role when you're trying to restrain somebody in the street as well. Um, I always like to say, we fight like demons to protect our angels. If a devil's coming at you, you want to leave them injured, you want to walk them away, you want them walking away in pain, or taking hit them in the ENT so they can take a ride in the EMT to urgent care, right? Ear, nose, and throat. Hit them in the ears, nose, and throat. Send them to the EMT so that the ENT can help them out, right? Anyways, that's my bad pun for the day. Um, so I don't know how many people may have seen this, but kind of I like the mindset of Rorschach in The Watchmen. Uh, when you find yourself in a room surrounded by your enemies, you should tell yourself, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. You know, when it comes to fighting people who are bigger, dealing with mass attack, dealing with weapons in a self-defense street fighting situation, you need to have that mindset that I'm going to fight so dirty, so hard, so aggressively that they're going to regret thinking about doing this. Now, I try to talk people out of dumb decisions, right? Um, it was like 4th of July, and I'm at Walmart, and this dude is drunk, pushing his cart around, rams into my leg. I'm like, hey, watch out, dude. He starts talking crap to me, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna kick your ass. I'm gonna do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, bro, it's not gonna work out for you, man. There's better ways to go around and get yourself hurt. You might want to chill out with all that. And his wife is right there too. He's drunk, he's like, wait till you get outside. I'm gonna F you up and da da da. I'm like, bro, there are things you could do with your life that are a lot better than this. Why don't you just chill out, bro? Just like, oh, Anyways, I talked him out of it. I was like, it's not worth it, dude. I'm like, honestly, you drunk. You don't got the skills. I don't want to fight you. I mean, it's a waste of time. I'm not trying to fight people. I don't feel like I have to fight people when they act like that anymore. So if you can, I use sarcasm. There might be, better ways to deal with it, but if you could talk somebody out of a fight, talk it out. If you can walk away, walk away. It's a lot better than being in a fight, because then you end up with scars and stuff from, fights, altercations, training accidents, whatever. If you get in fights, you increase the potential of injuries. You increase, issues with liability. It's better to live a life where you're calm, practice mindfulness, practice kindness. Try to avoid fights. Don't be a child, right? Be a grown up. So, but anyway, so that's my talk tactics for today. That's kind of my, you know, what I say when it comes to dealing with larger guys. Like I said, when it comes to big guys getting in your face, side kick to the knees, maintain your distance, sector to the outside, throw them to the ground. Hit the vulnerable targets, hit them hard, make them bleed. Hit targets like the eyes, groins, and solar plexus. I mean, I've seen so much success with hitting them in the solar plexus. Like everybody has one. You hit it nice and hard. You know, like the whole just make them suck air. Hit them hard, make them regret messing with you. I mean, you're smaller. You have a disadvantage. I mean, now something to keep in mind is use of force escalation, right? If somebody's just talking smack, doesn't give me a right to hit them. But if they become aggressive and the signs show, if you see the violence indicators are saying, he's swinging, he's going for a weapon, he pulls back to punch, then you have all the rights, right? So once it becomes a self-defense situation. And if you guys agree to go out into the parking lot and square off, that's a greed fight. It's not self-defense. You can't claim self-defense if he's like, hey, let's go out to parking lot, and you go out to parking lot. You both willingly engage. Self-defense is when you're trying to de-escalate and somebody's attacking and you respond to that attack. So make sure that you use equal and appropriate force necessary to deal with an altercation. So if somebody's throwing hands, I'm throwing hands. If somebody's throwing hands, you're not pulling out knives, you're not pulling out your Glock and, popping off rounds or something, right? Now, if somebody does pull out a knife or a gun, then you have the right to lethal force. But in general, you want to avoid, moving to that level. They say it's better to be, judged by 12 than carried by 6, right? But at the same time, avoiding going to jail for, assault or involuntary manslaughter. I mean, you're going to lose time from your job, your kids, it's going to affect your life. So you should not only try not to end up in a pine box, but you also don't want to have to be facing a jury box, right? So make sure that you make good decisions. You try to avoid it at all costs. These are the tactics I'm saying. Like if you have no other choice and you're cornered, some big dude's coming at you, do what you got to do. You work in security, law enforcement, you got to deal with the bigger guy. Now, security and law enforcement, the priorities are different. I mean, you can't just go around kicking somebody's rear end. I mean, kicking somebody's ass. I mean, I guess I can say that since it's the title of the podcast, but you can't go around just kicking somebody's ass when somebody's talking smack, right? So you want to make sure that, like, especially security, law enforcement, you want to control and restrain them, right? And versus, you're there to, finish the fight. So, priorities change, and so the tactics change. But again, still, distance management, asymmetric tactics, hard throws should be your bread and butter. Maintain that distance, use your stop kicks, hit hard targets, and if necessary, then you can use your, entry, forward pressure and terminate tactics, right, from the rat. But yeah, so that's my summary of how to fight a bigger person. Those are some of my experiences. I left out a few of them. I mean, there's a few more to go on, but I'm not going to talk you to death on that. But I got two more things I kind of want to go over. Two more topics I want to touch before moving on. One is the statement Bruce Lee said, "Empty your cup so that you may be filled, become devoid to gain totality." The proper training attitude when somebody comes to train should empty your cup. Bruce Lee's wisdom encourages a mindset of openness and receptivity. The importance of shedding your preconceived notion. You come with an empty cup, not a half full, not a full cup. You'll come to learn something. Hopefully in this podcast, you'll take the time to learn something. Now, something there's a lot of nowadays because of the social media and just the way things have changed. There's this rise of, people call Karenism or, people being Karens. And it's gotta suck. Like, a person's name, like, you're Karen. I'm not a Karen. I mean, I saw it on a dating profile, like, I want somebody who can complain to the waiter for me because I don't want to do it because my name is Karen. And I was like, no. But thanks for the disclaimer that you're a Karen by the name Karen, but don't like the. Anyways, we'll keep moving. uh, but I find when you're teaching, you run into a Karen that wants to tell you how to teach, what to teach, you know, um, politely remind them to empty their cup, come to, train to learn. Um, Not always, I like to call it the dilemma of the couch potato martial arts aficionado. Somebody who sits around watching a lot of YouTube and they think they know what works best. Well, that gun defense won't work because I saw all these videos and I'm like, have you trained it? Have you pressure tested it? So, I feel like there's two things that you kind of deal with nowadays because of social media, prevalence of YouTube videos, is you got Karenism, people who think they know how things should be taught, and they'll be quick to be like, well, I like things this way. I want things this way. I'm sorry. This isn't Burger King. You can't have things your way. I'm the instructor and I have a method and a way that I teach. Um, I'll be as respectful and polite as I can, but there's not, you know, every relationship isn't teacher student relationship isn't for everybody. There are certain instructors you'll gravitate towards. People have different teaching style, people have different learning style. So if your style is different, find somebody that fits you. I mean, if my style don't work for you, I mean, I'm sure you can find some place that's going to completely cater to you. My goal is to deal with, self-defense, street fighting. We deal with stick, knife, gun, empty hand, kickboxing, grappling, mass attack. We deal with civilian, law enforcement, military. We deal with all those permutations of real world combat. And we pull from combat sports, but from Jeet Kune Do, Kali, Krav Maga, and Jiu Jitsu, primarily looking for tactics that are going to work in a street fight, self defense, military, law enforcement, security situation. I mean, a situation where you have to deal with unexpected, uncontrolled violence, not an organized event in a cage with referees and EMTs and coaches and points and all that stuff. Like, we can pull very useful information from that, but the goal of what I do is self-defense, street fighting, real world violence, and trying to mitigate it, not actively engage in it, but art of fighting without fighting, de-escalate at all possible. Um, so, like I said, back to like the whole dilemma of what I call the couch potato martial arts aficionado, or the internet sleuth martial arts aficionado, right? These people watch YouTube videos, they don't train, they don't pressure test, but they have a lot of ideas. They like to go online in forums and argue and debate and chat, and this works and it won't work. And then you post up a video and it goes viral, and then all of a sudden everybody comes out of the woodwork making all the ridiculous statements. You're like, did you pressure? My question to them is, did you pressure test this? Because I pressure test a lot, if not like everything. A majority of everything gets pressure tested at some point. Um, you got to make sure it works under pressure. I mean, there's a certain level of skill building. You got to do drills that build skills, but you got to spar to functionalize them. If you don't spar to functionalize them, then you're missing out. If you just do drills, then you're gonna have a hard time making everything work and be functional, right? So, it's a balance between drills that build skills and the specialization training I was talking about earlier, like with the team sports where they do different specialized training to make them better at their main thing. um so it's a balance. I see the ones who like spar heavy, and people with a ton of bad habits because they're not doing the specialized things. But sparring, they make it work. There's a balance between drills to build skills and sparring to functionalize the skills. You got to have the two. Um, But yeah, so thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Kick-Ass Dad Talks Tactics podcast. Make sure that you like and subscribe. You follow us on YouTube, um, Facebook, and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, because this is going to be, on all the major podcast platforms and everything. But thank you for tuning in, and look out for the next episode.